What is going on, everybody? This is the Cylent Gamer, and I'm back with another video. And today we're going to talk about the Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection. This right here, I highly recommend this off the rip. If you're a big Street Fighter fan, this is something that you need to pick up. $39.99. It has 12 of the great Street Fighter games from Street Fighter 1 all the way to Street Fighter 3 Third Strike. All of them are arcade perfect. You can play online. And we're going to talk about that today. So most of these games right here is just most of the games that I've been using to compare and contrast to what's on this compilation. Now I know I have Street Fighter 5 and also Street Fighter 4. They're just sitting there, and I also have the Sega Saturn version of Street Fighter the movie, whatever. That's just sitting there. But most of the other games are basically, let me move that remote out the way. Most of these games are pretty much on this compilation, and I've just been doing a lot of contrast and comparison. And Street Fighter 1 for this compilation is not all that good. I mean, it never was really a good game in my opinion, but it's good to have it on it so you know the history of where the whole genre started, and it has a lot of artwork in this compilation, so you can go back and look at the museum portion and see how that game was made or how it was built. And but it all starts with Street Fighter 2 in my opinion. Once you start playing that, you see how well it's built and how well the game is played. It's just, like I said, it's straight arcade perfect. There's nowhere around it in my opinion. I mean, maybe there's someone who knows any nicks and crannies about these games or whatever the case may be. But for me, I remember it just like it's played in this game. A lot of good stuff in here. And then, like I said, you got all the variation of Street Fighter 2 and Street Fighter 3. Also, you have the Alpha series as well, which, quite frankly, the Alpha series on up, if you play them on normal mode, they play very well. But the ones before then, you got to remember back then, these are arcade-type games. They're basically arcade ports, and they were designed to eat your money. And so they're going to be tough for the casual person. I think this is really for someone who really loves the Street Fighter series and just want to have it, or just someone who's just really hardcore and they want to play something back from their past. And for me, like I said, I've been playing these maybe since I was 6, maybe 8 years old. I mean, I've been playing Street Fighter for a very long time, so this is right up my alley. And I think, yeah, as a matter of fact, they do have a place where you can adjust the difficulty. So it's not necessarily you have to play by the arcade rules. They do dumb them down for people who can play and get a different type of challenge based on their skill level. Also, you have 4 games that are online. So you can go online with Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, Alpha 3, Third Strike, and Street Fighter 2 Hyper Fighting. So I think that's pretty fantastic because, most of these games, especially Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, we never really got a home arcade port, a home port that was viable to the arcade. I mean, I know we got Super Street Fighter 2, but the real deal arcade port we never got. I think the closest thing we got to it was the Saturn version that was closest to the arcade, which is, I do have. It's on the Street Fighter collection for the Sega Saturn. But I mean, once you start playing the arcade version, you will see that it's not nowhere near as crisp as you would think it would be. I think the Saturn, and maybe like I have the version right here, the Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, or they call it X in Japan. They are pretty much an arcade, perfect as well. But I don't think we really got a really clean one as they have one here, because I mean, I know with the after the Dreamcast, I know they could have been put a real arcade port on this on consoles, and like after on a PS2 or the original Xbox or further. But I think with the Dreamcast, that's the only one we got. Hyper Fighting, you can go online with that. You can also go online with Third Strike, which is an excellent game. One of the best, if not the best, Dreamcast games or Dreamcast fighting games that are out there. But you got it right here on this compilation. Another thing I wanted to talk about real quick is this right here will give you a really good background of history of the series. It's not just the games. They give you a really good background of the history of the Street Fighter series and where has it gone now. I mean, we all know that we're up to Street Fighter 5 now, but I think with Street Fighter 3, it kind of lost its way and you really didn't understand what happened between Street Fighter 2 Turbo and what happened with Third Strike, because everybody know about Third Strike, but no one, okay, whatever, and no one really known anything about too much about the new generation or Second Impact. Everybody just know about Third Strike. So when you look at Street Fighter 3, you get to play those two games as well, which I think they were only confined to the Dreamcast for the most part. There may be some other iterations out there. I mean, quote me on that. I don't know. I really didn't jump into the Street Fighter scene after once the Dreamcast hit. I played Alpha 3, and I think I really didn't touch it. Even though I did touch a little bit of Third Strike, I just wasn't interested, and it kind of lost its way until Street Fighter 4. But you get that history lesson about everything that happened with pretty much every game, and I think that's where a lot of people kind of got lost in translation with the round where Street Fighter 3 started coming out. So this is another good way to really check out on the history of that, as well as the history of other games. It's very in-depth. I highly recommend this, to anybody. So, I mean, it's a nice little package. It doesn't have an instruction manual, unfortunately, but I do like the cover, and if you see the cover, you'll see what I mean. It's pretty nice right there. So, that's all I really got. I mean, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I highly recommend this Street Fighter 30th anniversary collection. I mean, if you want to see real quick, I do have the other original Street Fighters on the Super Famicom, Street Fighter 2, 2 Turbo, and Super Street Fighter. So like I said, I've been doing a lot of comparison of this to the other ones, and for the most part, it look like they got it right. And this is Street Fighter Alpha 3. I have that as well. Also, I have Street Fighter Alpha 1 and a Street Fighter Alpha 2, which in Japan they call them Zero. So, I mean, I have a pretty good taste of Street Fighter throughout the history, and this is just something that I love to play. Over here, I have this Capcom Classics collection, which has the arcade versions of Street Fighter 1. I mean, sorry. Yeah, I think it does have Street Fighter 1. But it has Street Fighter 2, 2 Turbo, and Championship Edition. And so I compared that with that, and it looks like it's on point. Honestly, I think this version looks better because it's straight arcade perfect. This one has been confined to lower resolutions compared to this one. And Sergio, I think they just look identical, but I do think that one does look a little better. And this one is another anniversary collection. This is the 15th anniversary collection of the Street Fighter. This one has Third Strike and Hyper Street Fighter 2, the anniversary edition. And I may do a video about that particular one down the road, the Hyper Street Fighter 2. And last but not least, I do have the Sega Genesis Special Champion Edition. So, like I said, I highly recommend this. I think you guys will enjoy it. It may kick your butt a little bit, but you can always go online and beat up other people. But the lowering of the difficulty, the museum where you can see the history, and all of these games for less than $40, $39.99, you can't beat it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. You guys take care. Peace.